Hi, Kim Rayner here from All About Spirits Life After Cancer, and I want to welcome you to episode 43 of Life After Cancer. And if you've had a cancer diagnosis, you know that cancer throws you curveballs. It impacts every aspect of your life. Your social relationships, your personal relationships, your job, your career, your finances. It impacts everything. And when we're diagnosed and we're trying to navigate through that process, stepping back into life can be really hard after all of the treatment is over with. So I created this show called All About Spirits Life After Cancer to help people transition into life after cancer, because it doesn't necessarily go back to what it used to be. So in this show, I broadcast every Monday at 10 o'clock. And I share things that would have been helpful for me when I was walking through my process, things that I wish I had known as I was going through the process, or sometimes things that I've discovered along the way. So today's episode, like I said, is episode 43, and it is jumping to worst case scenarios. And I chose this topic because it seems to be a phenomenon that we do for lots and lots of different reasons. And it doesn't just happen when we're dealing with some kind of a medical issue. It happens when we get called into the boss's office and he says, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you." Or she says, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you." Our reaction is, "Oh no, what did I do?" Right? We jump to the worst case scenario. Or if you get a phone call late at night, right? Our reaction is, "Uh-oh. What happened? Who's hurt? Who's dead? What happened?" So our natural reaction, for whatever reason, is to jump to the worst case scenario. Think about some time when somebody said to you, "Hey, I need to talk to you," right? You're not thinking that they're going to throw you a birthday party or have some kind of a great time with you. You're thinking about, "Uh-oh, what are they going to tell me? Is my relationship ending? Have I done something to make this person angry? What's going on?" So we have a tendency as human beings to just jump to the worst case scenario, and that's not helpful for us. And when we translate that or move that into healthcare scenarios, right? When you go, let's say you have a mammogram or you have some blood tests done, or you have some other kind of test, and they say, "We need to run another test. We need to do another blood test. We need to take another image." Our reaction is, "Uh-oh, something really bad has happened." And that may or may not be the case. But when we jump to the worst case scenarios, that is never helpful to us. So, a lot of times when they find a lump or a mass, our reaction is, "Oh, it's cancer." And, the truth might be, it might be cancer. And it might not be. I don't know how many women I know who have had a mammogram, and they were going for their mammogram, and they found something on the image that looked a little suspicious. So they asked to do another image. They were asked to do another image, and the reaction always is, "Oh no, they found a lump on my breast, and I'm sure that it's cancer." And then our heads take the next leap to, it's probably terminal cancer, or they're going to have to remove the part of my body that they're suspecting is something's wrong with. And none of that stuff is helpful. It doesn't move us into a place that is going to be helpful for our long-term benefits. So our natural reaction is to assume the worst case scenario. Sometimes we jump to conclusions. And when we do that kind of stuff, we also start taking different kinds of actions and starting to notice, why am I taking this action? What am I hoping to accomplish? What am I hoping to find? When we start taking action mindfully, we have a better chance of creating a scenario for ourselves, or a life for ourselves, that's going to be more it's going to be more in line perhaps with the life that we're hoping to create. So when we start doing research, which is one of the things that we often do, right? We start doing research. Hi, Sue. We start doing research on things, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing research. being cognizant of why you're doing your research. Are you looking to find out the horrible things that might go on in your life? Or are you looking to plan ahead so you can have ideas on what to expect? Are you looking to hear people's success stories? Are you looking to feed your fears with all of the worst case scenarios that could also be going on out in the story world? So knowing why you're doing your research is really important. And then, things that you want to watch for is the stuff that I'm doing, are the actions that I'm taking, are they making me feel better in this scenario, or are they making me feel worse? If they're making you feel better, then absolutely continue on with the scenario. Absolutely continue doing the work, continue doing what you're doing. If they're not making you feel better, then my invitation to you would be to ask yourself, well, why am I continuing to look at this? Why am I continuing to research and to look at things that make me feel bad? What's going on with that for me? And there's nothing wrong, like I said, with research to help you plan, to say, okay, well, if this is, I really know what this is and I want to be prepared for it. There's nothing wrong with doing that. If you're just doing it to feed your fears, that you might want to take a look at. Another thing is to look at is when you have something that's suspect, or you're fearful of something, or you have a diagnosis, or anything that's going on in your life really, and you find yourself wanting to repeat the story, wanting to tell people what's going on, asking yourself, why do I want to tell this story? Am I looking for support? Do the people in my life that I'm telling the information to, do they have a right to know? Do they need to know what's going on? And you're letting them in on that part of your life. Or sometimes we tell the story because we're looking for sympathy or we're looking for attention. And that's not helpful. Sometimes we tell the story because we need to discharge energy, because it's trapped in our bodies and we need to find a way to let the story out. So knowing, why are you telling the story? What are you hoping to gain by having other people hear what's going on for you, and really being clear about what your intention is with that. Am I stuck in the drama of what's going on? Am I looking for support? Do I need help with things? Or do people just really have the right to know what's happening for me right now? So that's another thing to pay attention to. Another thing that is really, I find it really interesting is when I start telling people stories, I get feedback from them, and there's sometimes that you hear all of the horror stories of people who had really bad stuff happen during that scenario. And I don't know why it's our natural reaction. It's like when a woman is getting ready to go into labor, right? She hears all the horror stories of all the terrible labors that have ever gone on. And I don't know why we do that to women while they're in labor, but that is something that we do. And it's not helpful to us. It's not helpful to the other people. So if you are sharing your story and you're hearing horror stories, and the feedback that you're getting back isn't helpful to you, then my invitation to you is find different people to share the story with if you need to be talking about what's going on. If it's not lifting you up, if it's not helping you, if it's not making you feel better, then that's not going to help in your healing process. That's not going to help you as you're walking through the process of health challenges or whatever it is that's going on for you. And, in the beginning of an early diagnosis with cancer, there can be lots of fear around that. So you want to make sure that you're really careful who you're telling. And if you're the person who's being talked to about somebody's health issues, I can't tell you how many times, because I had ovarian cancer, and there aren't a lot of people that survive long-term with ovarian cancer, blah, 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 blah. I can't tell you how many times I actually heard that from people, where I would share the story because I didn't have hair or whatever, and I would start talking. Hi, Mike. I would tell them, and then they'd say, "Oh, my grandma had ovarian cancer." And then they'd follow that up with, "Oh, she's dead now." And it's like, really? I'm not sure that I need to know that from you. I don't know that that's information that's helpful. So if you're going to comment on somebody who's sharing their story with you, make sure that it's something that's going to be helpful to them. If they're already in fear, you telling them that the person you knew died from whatever it is that's going on, or that's not going to be helpful to them. So check why you're commenting on it, check why you're sharing or why you're repeating the story. So that would be one of the things I would say. Hearing success stories is always really helpful. Hearing how people have overcome. I'm always looking for success stories, people who had beat the odds. I beat the odds, and I love to hear the stories of people who were successful at beating the odds. So if you can tell those kind of stories, that's helpful. And if you happen to be in a worst case scenario place right now, one of the things, finding a way to get out of that trap is really helpful, and it's really important. So one of the things that I always do, because I get stuck in the worst case scenario, I get stuck in that place sometimes. And one of the things that's really helpful for me is to go outside and find some piece of grass and take off my shoes and socks and just stop and stand still and close my eyes. And I take my hands and I put my hands facing palms out, and I just breathe. I take 5 deep breaths, and I go really slow. I'll count in to the count of 4, and I'll count out to the count of 5. And I always try and breathe out 1 second longer than I breathe in. I'm not sure why I do that, but somebody told me that was helpful to calm you down. So that was one of the tools that I used. And when I'm standing in that spot, going back to the idea that I am in the present moment, right here, right now, where I am, I'm perfectly fine. I have air to breathe. I have clothes on my back. I'm going to have a place to sleep tonight. So right now, in this moment, the only moment that really exists for me, I'm okay. And if I can get myself back to that space, it helps drive that crazy worst case scenario and panic mode out of my experience. And so that's one of the ways that I do it. And I spend a lot of time out in nature. I always try to do these shows out in nature, because being out in nature, there's just something calming and life-giving about that. So if you can find a way to be in nature, that's helpful. Another thing that's helpful in this kind of scenario is to stop telling the story. Quit repeating the terrible things that are going on in your life. Quit telling people, and there's a difference between telling people because they need to know and telling people because you just feel like you want to share the story. Every time we share the story, it adds energy to it. And because I'm a law of attraction life coach, that's what I do for a living. And I know that the energy that I draw into my experience is going to attract circumstances that match that energy. So if I'm sharing about how awful and horrible things are and how miserable I am, well, what's going to come back to me? More horrible, awful, and miserable. That's not what I'm interested in. So stop telling the story unless you absolutely have to. So the last thing that I'm going to share, and I'm just looking at my notes here. It's to find a way to do something to help lift your energy vibration. And one of the things that I do, and I talked about taking a walk in nature, I talked about just standing barefoot in the grass and breathing. Another thing that I like to do is to color. And for whatever reason, that's really relaxing for me. It's just, I do it with pencils. Sometimes I do it with crayons. Sometimes I do it with magic markers. And there's just something really nice about sitting down. Maybe it's because it reminds me of being a kid at a time where I didn't feel like I had any responsibilities. I didn't feel like I had anything that I needed to do. I'm stepping over logs here. Anything that I needed to do. So it's just really relaxing for me to do that. And then the last thing that I'll share with you about trying to raise your energy, it has to do with, it's a practice that I call it, it's wouldn't it be nice if? So if I'm stuck in the fear of some kind of situation that's going on for me, I will, let's say I'm waiting for the results of a lab tests, and they found elevated counts in my blood or something. And to try and lower the anxiety and lower the negative emotions around that, I will often say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if this was just resulting from what I ate for supper last night? Wouldn't it be nice if the doctor was really being cautious about what was going on with me, but there was no need for him to be concerned about that? Wouldn't it be nice if I was perfectly fine and everything that they're concerned about is just bad numbers and those numbers happen to be my normal? Wouldn't it be nice if I could just let this all go and relax for 15 minutes? And as I start walking through the process of saying things that would be nice, I can feel my energy start to lift. And that doesn't just work if you're waiting for a bad diagnosis. It works when you have any kind of stress going on. If you're sitting in traffic, right? Wouldn't it be nice if the traffic just cleared up and I was able to get to my destination on time? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody that was on the road driving today was just friendly with each other? Wouldn't it be nice if everybody that I met took a minute to smile at me and I took a minute to smile at them? So finding ways to lift your energy when you're going through stuff is really important. So just to summarize the things I talked about, one of them is if you're stuck in the worst case scenario, stop telling your story. Quit repeating everything that's going on that's horrible. When you're getting feedback from people or you're giving feedback, pay attention. Is the feedback uplifting? Is it helpful? If it's not, then stop going to those people. Or if you're the one giving not helpful, uplifting feedback, stop telling people the horror stories. And then the last thing is to find something to do to raise your vibration, whether that's, coloring, taking a walk, playing a game like the Wouldn't It Be Nice If. Find something to do to raise your energy, because if you keep your energy low, you're going to keep attracting things at that vibration for you, and that's not going to improve your situation. So the last thing that I'll say about this is, even though it's a natural reaction to jump to the worst case scenario, that doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. We don't have to get trapped in the idea of, well, that's the way I always did it, so I'm just going to keep doing that. I can't change it because that's the way it's always been. So you do have the ability to change. You have the ability to do things differently. My invitation to you is to look around your life and to find ways that you can say, where am I stuck in the negative emotion or the negative vibration of what's going on? And if you really want to change and to do something about that, it's going to take effort. It doesn't just happen automatically. You are going to have to invest some time and energy into it. But I can tell you, being on the other side of so many worst case scenario moments in my life, that it's really a lot better this way. It's a lot better on this side. So if you found something in today's episode, I think that's all I have to share for today. If you have something in this episode that was helpful to you, I would appreciate it if you'd like it and share it. And as always, I'm going to send the invitation to anybody who has survived cancer, whether you're the person that's had the surgery and the chemo and all of the things that go along with it, or you've walked through the process with someone who has had cancer. I would love if you would be willing to share your story with 1000 Cancer Survivors. And you can email me at 1000cancersurvivors@allaboutspirit.com, and you can share your story, and it will be, if it's accepted, it'll be published in either on my website or in my book. So thank you for being here, and I hope that you make it a great day.